This is Chaz Woodson, and you're listening to the Going Offsides podcast.
It's really an incredible conversation.
Yeah, it's an amazing episode. I mean, just from the sense that he was one of the pioneers. I mean, you're talking about a guy who was there at the beginning of the MLL, was there with that summer showcase in 2000, multiple time All-American at UMass, just a legend in the game. I mean, he was one of the first guys, if you really kind of talk about it, it was, the Gate brothers with STX. And then when Warrior really got its start, they built it off of Mark Millon and Casey Powell. And, he's one of the pioneers of the game. And it was just so cool to sit down and talk with him. And also too, just having the opportunity to talk a little bit about his playing career, which was phenomenal, but just to see what he's doing from an instructional level and how he helped build a generation of players. And it was just really cool. The fans and us really, we were kind of awestruck a little bit because we were here talking to one of the legends of the games, but couldn't have been a nicer guy, couldn't have been a better conversation. And he was just a phenomenal guy to talk to. I think everybody's going to enjoy it.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have there's no other way to put it, absolute lacrosse legend today. We had Ricky Beast last week. We had Marty Ward right after that. And now we have Mark Millon. So it's a pretty good group all in a row, but this one's personal for me. I didn't know how to shoot at all until I watched Offensive Wizardry, and we're going to bring that up at some point. But Mark, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be on and appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah, no problem. Ryan, go
yeah,
ahead.
Man. I mean, listen, you're talking to a Long Island legend, man. Born and bred, and I it's pretty interesting. I'm an alumni of a Millon lacrosse camp, so this is one of the guys that he's one of the first few guys that actually turned lacrosse into a great way to make a living for himself. So it's definitely awesome to have you on. I can't thank you enough, and it's really gonna be awesome to chop it up with you for a little bit.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it. I love talking lacrosse, and unfortunately, as you get older and the longer I've done these camps, it's every time I run across someone in the sport, they're just like, I came to your camp. So it makes you feel really good. It also makes you feel a little old. This summer, I have a 2022 team that I coach, which is all like current juniors. That was the big nut this year where college coaches were recruiting. And I talked to so many coaches all summer, and every young coach I talked to is like, I came through your camp. So again, it's really cool. I've been doing it a long time and makes you really proud, and but also have been doing it quite a while.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. I know it's it was a staple of the summer for everybody. I mean, before kind of club ball exploded, I mean, the instructional camps were basically a staple of the summer across the board. And I know Millon, it's just something that every kid did every summer. It was like, hey, what do you want for Christmas? Well, Mom, Dad, I want you to pay for me to go to Millon camp this summer. That I want that to be one of my presents. So it's been really awesome. I mean, kind of like just to ask you a quick question, how did all of that come about? I know obviously, you graduate college, you play at UMass, you do all that, you're playing in the World Games, kind of how did all of that all come together?
So, I wasn't really sure. I have two young boys myself now, and I tell them the same thing. I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do after college. So I started kind of messing around with maybe working in the lacrosse industry. And I actually did end up doing that right out of college. I went back to Long Island for a short period of time and then moved to Baltimore to work for STX. And I was kind of like, do I do this business thing full time? But I love coaching. So do I jump into like being a college coach? And I guess I kind of came up with that sort of maybe the best of both worlds would be a little bit of a career in business / the lacrosse industry, and then maybe start a little bit of a legacy with doing my own instructional camp. So I would get the best of both worlds, and kind of that's where it started. My original partner was my brother, and we kind of started doing these camps together. And it really wasn't what his aspirations were. So he kind of broke off. But right after my senior year, I think the first summer we started launching these camps up on Long Island.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Now, Ryan texted me the other night and he said, because I was like, oh, I can't wait. Another Long Island guy for Ryan to chop it up with. And I can feel like this outside Midwesterner. And he said, and I quote, "You're no longer a Long Island guy. You're a Baltimore guy now." How true is this?
I did not say that. I said you're a Long Island guy living in Baltimore. There's a difference.
So how much of that is true? How much are you ingrained now in the Baltimore community now that you're, like you said, you have two sons and I believe they both go to school in the Baltimore area. So which one is it more now? Are you a Baltimore guy officially or are you forever a Long Island
I got to interrupt. You can't even say anymore. I mean, what's that old saying? They can't take the Long Island out of you. I forget what the whole saying goes, and interestingly enough, now I've been down here long enough that I've probably been down here longer than growing up on Long Island, but no, I am a Long Islander through and through. I hope the boys' friends aren't on here, but my boys are Long Islanders in Baltimore.
Okay.
So yeah, no, once you like get that blood in you up there, and I was just up there last week. That place is the best and I love it up there. And I'm not there simply because, I got sort of entrenched down here and cost of living up there is probably the only negative, but I love it. I'm always a Long Islander.
Well, listen, man, I'm a Long Island guy living out in Ohio now because this is where my wife's family is. But
right.
Everybody gives me the business all the time. So I mean, listen, I get it. It's and especially for you, man. You're a Long Island guy who went to UMass. You can't get that's the blood right there, man.
That's it. We used to have Long Island versus the world scrimmages up there, and it would be like 25 guys. We had so many UMass guys, so many Long Island UMass guys. It's a pipeline. It always has been.
Yeah. So, can you talk to us a little bit about, what was it about UMass that got you there? What was it? And so many people too. I mean, everybody, a lot of times when they think of like those college programs, those blue blood programs, like you're talking about a Syracuse, Virginia, those types of programs. I mean, UMass has a lot of history. There's been so many successful teams. I mean, you were a part of them, even that run in 2006 with Doc Schneider in goal and all those guys. Coach Cannella has been, I think he might be the longest tenured coach in Division I lacrosse right now, or close to it. What is it about UMass? Because there is so much history there. It's such a good program. Can you talk to us a little bit about what got you there? What's so special about that place? Because, from my standpoint, having been up there, it's like one of the most fun places to watch a game, to even play at. It's a special place.
Yeah. You're hitting on a bunch of the things. I played on the Empire team. I don't know if you were up on Long Island. Playing on the Empire.
I got cut.
Back in the day, it was if you made it, even if you made the Empire team, you were pretty much done. You were a D1 guy getting scholarship money. But even the guys that didn't make the team, the coaches were always attending like those last couple of rounds of tryouts. So I had decent options. I first thought maybe Carolina. I was gonna, and then I kind of loved Syracuse, and I had all the looks and went on all the trips. When I went up to UMass, there was just something about it. The first thing was Dick Garber, who was there for 36 years, was the head coach. He was the head coach at the time. And he was he's just an incredible, I don't even want to say recruiter, but just a father figure for the program. And then the town was really charming, really cool little New England town. But more than anything, it was the culture on the team. When I went up there on my recruiting trip, there was just so much friendship and bonds and love, and the guys all hung out together. And one of the things I thought was unique, and young players today probably do a little more research on the program, but I did enough. And I saw that it was a program that I felt like was just about to climb over the mountain and reach a bunch of Final Fours in a row. And one of the final determining factors was I was like, I think it would be really cool to go to a program that's about to jump into their first couple Final Fours rather than a program that was just going there every year. And so the combination of Dick Garber, the location, the culture on the team, and then the thought of, getting over the hump into some Final Fours really put me over the hump. And unfortunately, we didn't get there, but I wouldn't trade it. The place is special. There is so much history. There's so many iconic players that have gone there over time. And I think I talk to all these college coaches now and stuff. A lot of them are my friends. I don't think there's a better coach in Division I lacrosse than Greg Cannella. And the reason I say that is really what he's done with the program with a little bit of limited resources. So, I mean, he's got a lot of resources, don't get me wrong, but versus like some of the other programs, he's a tremendous coach, and I love my experience up there.
Awesome.
So you graduate, and like you said, you were torn between the business world, coaching, clinics, and you decide to go into the business world for a bit, and you end up building a camp business. What year was it and what prompted the creation of this, at the time, this VHS called Offensive Wizardry with Mark Millon?
All right. So that's an awesome question. And so as I graduated and was playing a ton of lacrosse, and my lacrosse, my business was first with STX in the manufacturing side. And then I was only there a couple of years, and then came on board with Warrior very early in the process. So it was really, for a while, it was just Dave Morrow and I. And I was doing my camps, and I was playing, and I was kind of saying to myself, like, what do I need to do to cement and take my brand from like people going to my camp to visit with Mark Millon and learn from Mark and hang out with Mark Millon, but also like to brand myself more as like a true teacher. So I was like, man, I got to do an instructional video that will just hammer it home that I'm not just a player, I'm also a pretty good teacher of the game. So I did that. It was a really cool project. I hooked up with a guy that I kind of knew. And one of the goals was of that project was branding and not necessarily making money. So we spent a fortune to do that thing. We spared no expense on, like, we borrowed the signage boards from the MLL. We found a really cool farm down in Severna Park, and the budget was huge. I think back in 2000, we spent like $80,000 to produce that thing. And so over time, it really may have made a little bit of money, but it was more of a branding tool. And it was incredibly successful in that. Like, I'm telling you, I still talk to people. There's a guy who's at Maryland right now. I did something with my son's team at Maryland in February, and even he, who's a current elite college player, said he grew up watching that. So the amount of eyeballs the amount of eyeballs on that thing was, over time, has been incredible, and it's been such a rewarding piece.
Yeah, man.
I mean, I can speak to that because I fell into that weird gap. So I'm 31. And so I was in that weird area where, like, in the Midwest, we didn't watch the MLL. So, like, I didn't know who you were from your college playing days. I'm not like Ryan, who would have heard your name probably in Long Island. So I had no idea who this was. And my friend from Minnesota, my freshman year of college, is like, you shoot like shit. He's like, watch this video. And I was like, okay. And so I watched this video, and and he's like, this is how I learned. I didn't have good coaching either. And so we learned how to shoot on this video, and we're at a D3 school in the Midwest, and we're watching this instructional video. And I didn't know who you were before the video, because I just really would have no way of knowing. You kind of stopped playing right as I got into college. And so I had no idea. And to this day, I was like, man, if I get a chance to, I'm going to talk to this guy. And then obviously over the years, I learned all of these different things about how great you were as a player. And I obviously knew about your clinics and seeing your Twitter interactions. And like, it kind of came back up to me and was fresh in my memory, because I saw a lot of people tweeting highlights of your son, I think your oldest son, Cape. So yeah, that's what brought it all together. I was like, man, I gotta see if he'll do it. I just shot a random DM, and luckily you responded, because I was like, this is really like a fun moment for me back to my, like, as I could not shoot. I was just a face-off guy.
Right.
But
Well, that's really cool. And anytime I get a chance to do these, I jump on it because it's just fun to, the branding you get out of this. It's just really fun to talk to people about lacrosse and some things I've done. But that's cool. I love hearing the stories. And I say to people all the time that I didn't make a lot of money on it. So not that that's what is the most important, but anytime you hear people talk about like the experience they had with it, it's really rewarding.
yeah, you
Cool.
definitely got your goal of building your brand, because like I said, I'd never had seen you play before the video, and now all of a sudden I know who you are and I could never forget. So it really worked out for you. Speaking of, so you not only do your own clinic, which I'm sure Ryan's going to jump into a little bit more, but you also have this thing, is it Project 9.9 or just 9.9?
So the branding on that is a little weird because when we first started it, Paul and I had it like he wore 9 in college and I wore 9. It was 9.9. And then we were like, it's too much of a mouthful. So now we just call it Project 9. Okay.
So maybe walk me through a little bit of the backstory, because when I saw that come about, like obviously at that time I knew who you were. Everyone knew who Paul was in my age group. So I was like, what a unique mix. Obviously we have both offensive guys, but what a great mix. And the very first year you ran it, they blew the visuals out of the water with all the video work. And it was like this, it was basically about like being to the Elite 11 quarterback camp for offensive players. So maybe talk about that, how that came to be a little bit, and where that stands today.
Yeah, another awesome question. I love doing these when there's like real thoughtfulness going into it. But you mentioned Elite 11, and I think we have that in some of our stuff. So I don't know if you just randomly put the two together, but
yeah, I did.
Then that's pretty impressive because we've talked about that over time, that we kind of knocked that off a little bit. But so Paul and I had a little bit of a relationship. I was working for Warrior and we were trying to sign him to an endorsement deal. So we kind of knew each other, and then we randomly ended up in a skybox at an Inside Lacrosse game about 11 years ago. And we're just talking about our philosophies on lacrosse and instruction and development and where players are today. And we said we should get together and start thinking about maybe doing something together. And, we came up with this. We both had known about Elite 11. We both thought that, to your point earlier, that kids are all just growing up. All they do now is play club and they don't go to camps anymore. At times you can see a little lack of fundamentals. So back 10 years ago, we were like, let's just do something. Let's take a really, really high level players, bring them into Baltimore and, 50, 60 of them, and train them and get them ready for college and have them compete and put some rankings out during, kind of like Elite 11 does. So we just completed our 9th year. It's really one of the coolest events in lacrosse. And one of the things with that one that we're most proud of, you guys have been obviously involved in lacrosse. It's the most copycat sport of all time. Like so-and-so does a shooting camp and then there's 10 of them. And so-and-so does a goalie camp and then there's 10 new ones. And then there's a new tournament, this style, and recruiting. Project 9 hasn't been copied really. And the reason that is it can't be. It's so difficult to run that event. And we have like the perfect combination between my operational skills and Paul's media skills. So from day one, like he brought a huge audience in with him. And he immediately, and on day one was like, we got to have like a good edit on this thing. And so it's a really difficult event to pull off. It's hotel rooms in the fall, and it's just really challenging. So, but it's cool. It's a really cool event. And it was extra neat this summer. My son was old enough to do it. He was on the younger side, but to have him out there was really cool. And next summer will be 10 years. So it's been pretty exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, you're hitting all these milestone kind of moments. I mean, you're like 10 years, and then I know Millon camp is it 25 years?
Yeah.
Was it 25 years? Yeah, I thought I saw that. Now, you kind of brought it up with your son. I mean, it's one of those things too. Now, obviously, you were a great player in your own right. Your son is getting to that recruitable age. And he in his own right is a phenomenal player, going to be a highly sought after recruit. I mean, how do you one, navigate that as a parent? You know, in terms of kind of maybe some of the things that you know, through your experiences, through being in the industry and everything like that, how are you helping navigate him through that? And also too, you know, how are things changed from a recruiting landscape, say for you when you were going through it with your experience, as to how, you know, maybe the younger generations are going through it now? Because I mean, it's very, very different from, you know, when you went through it to how it is now.
Yeah, I mean, so the first thing is I'm trying to guide him that the understanding for him should be all about, and this is my message at Project 9, is that, like, I look at my career when I graduated from UMass as a first team All-American, and that's the highest, it's the pinnacle of the sport. But I got so much better throughout 10, 15 years into the pro league. So playing at the pinnacle of college lacrosse and still trajectory, and like a guy like Tom Brady always talks about, he just keeps getting better. So the first thing is I just try to guide him that, like, don't ever accept that, like, people are telling you how good you are. Just keep trying to get better. Then fortunately, I've had some guys over time that I've mentored kind of through the process a little bit, like Grant Ament. Used to come through my camps when he was in like 8th grade. And then he came to Project 9 3 times. And then we got very close as a, you know, almost like a father-son relationship. And so I was able to mentor him and learn some things through that I can pass on to my son. And then I also have been doing this for the club I run for the last couple of years, dealing with the college coaches. So, like, all that I've learned on this, I'm able to kind of, you know, stay out of it when I need to, be involved when I need to. But he's got, you know, a year from now, he's going to be one of those guys that people go after a little bit. But, and then the last part of your question, how's it different? I mean, yeah, it's different. Like, I took my 5 visits during the fall of my senior year. So it's obviously later. And there wasn't near as much. Like I mentioned, the Empire State games, that was kind of it. Like, all the coaches went to those Empire State games and watched the tryouts, but there wasn't 10 show. My son's going to do like 7 showcases and stuff this fall. So it's just they play so much more now.
So I'm going to ask you a couple, what I think are maybe some tough questions for you to answer, because I'm going to make you choose a couple things. So you obviously have this history with the MLL. Like, you were there really early on. You played your entire pro career there. That was the only league really, other than, you know, obviously the elite clubs that were around back then. And you kind of probably know what's coming. You have a lot of friendships in the PLL still. I mean, with Paul and a couple other guys, and it's hard to ever go against the family, I guess. But if you were 25 years old playing today, what would you choose, the PLL or would you choose the MLL? And feel free to add why, because I'm sure there's a backstory there.
So the first thing, I'll just answer the question. I mean, I think I would probably choose the PLL, just because it seems like at this point in time, there's seems like I was one of the top guys coming out. And it seems like that's kind of where a lot of the top guys are right now. So I probably would have wanted to do like Grant did and test myself against the best. But I will say I watched a lot of MLL this summer, and I thought it was unbelievable. And I think the talent discrepancy at the total top is, there's a discrepancy, but like there's a lot of good players out there in both leagues. And then the second part of your question, I don't know if there was a second part, but I guess I'll just say that it bums me out that there are 2 leagues. I know they tried. I know Paul tried pretty hard to do something with MLL. Don't delve into what happened, but I'd much rather see like all of the guys I play with, myself and Casey and all the guys, Ryan and all the guys, JJ Albert, like at the end of the day, you kind of lose your legacy a little bit if,